And welcome back. Today we are going finally to add these power-up cards that are actually not really power-ups but more like conversions, but we'll see this in a minute. And basically I've created a shield here and then one reinforced armor. So this as I imagine. Now before we go to create these cards here, there is a little bit of a fix we need to do on our code. It's like a little bug, but we can fix in very short time. First of all, I need to show you when this bug occurs. So basically we have cards on our hand. We play one card, it's fine. The other player can choose either which card to place on the game. Now when we pass the turn, and if the player, the opponent, decide to move with this card, then when it's our turn, we don't have anymore the option to use this card here that is on our hand, but we can use only the card that we just picked up. So this is the bug. We are going to fix this now, and after we can start with our new functions. So first of all, we go on the event sheet board as usual, and then here where we have the triple filter, the one we are very familiar with. Inside we have this on drag and drop, and then from this line 16, there is this group of actions. We are going to copy this call to stop drag and drop, and we disable this. So we go down on line 27 where we say pass turn, on function pass turn, and we paste this function call to function here, and then we disable this line 28. This because disable line 28 because we call stop drag and drop that is here, and the thing that it's doing is to disable all the cards. So here in this case we disable the one that different from the previous turn, but we disable the cards here, and we don't really care because after we're going to enable only the one of the player, so it's fine. In this way we solve all our problem because this was called in the wrong place. Let's test it. I save and test. Okay. Let's see. Now move this card here, and then I can pick this. So even if I take another card, I can pick any card I want. So this is solved. It was quite easy. We didn't fix this in the past, so it was time to do it now. Okay, now we can go start with the new things. First of all, we go on our event sheet database. I already showed you that here we have the new cards, shield on frame number 5, and frame number 6 we have the armor. So we're going to create these new cards here. First of all, before going to create the card itself here, we need to go on the array cards and increase its height to 9. This because these cards here, this also the future one, might have something that require the player to read the structure about what this card is actually doing, because it's not just a standard robot. And therefore we want to add one field where we can add the information. And in the case where there are robots, something like this, we could say, oh, this robot is very good with a range attack, this is the best robot this faction, or this is using fire as a main weapon. Doesn't matter, something just to make a little bit of atmosphere. It's not related to the function of the card. So really it depends on you what you want to write. So after we change this height here, we need to create a new global constant number, so basically a new constant, and then we change the name here after copying from info, from milli-damage to info, and the values from 7 to 8. So now we have this card here that is an index for the info, and we go for each one of these we duplicate and we create a new info field here for the card. Value will be question mark, question mark, question mark. You can write what you want to describe this robot. I really don't want to spend too much time to do this because these videos really will be quite long, so try to go as fast as possible. Let's go here, paste, and always need to remember to put the proper number after we paste. Paste 0 with number 3. Okay, so we did all our cards, our 5 robots at the moment. I wrote it from wrong number, and we're going to duplicate this robot Zorek to create a new card. New card will be card number 5. It's a shield, and this card will be all power up, but since this power up here actually are some trade-off, so rather than a power up we call this conversion. So rather than a robot I call it this conversion. You can call as you want, and then shield will be the first one. Okay, so we are good to go now to change the values here. First of all, as usual, to don't get confused and to don't forget, I change all the 4s to 5, and after we go back to change the values of these fields. I think this is much, even it's a little bit of time consuming, you have to do things twice, but at least we make sure that we don't have conflict. We have to go back to the code and then check it again, and you might lose something on the track. Okay, after we have this information, we need to change these values here of this card robot shield, sorry. So first of all, we are going to use these values here from movement to melee to store the modification we need to do on our target card. In this case, I want to use this card for all the cards that are in the battlefield. They can be my card or the card of my opponent, it doesn't matter. This because since it gives also some negative value, it can be a little bit interesting to create different mechanics in this way, like yes, I give you +1 armor, but also give you, I don't know, -1 movement, so it for you takes longer to reach my base. So first of all, I'm going to disable some of the power up that are not related to shield. First of all, actually I'm going to change the name. Rather than Zorek, I change in shield. Rather than a robot, the type, I say this is a conversion. Okay, now movement. This card doesn't influence the movement, so I could put the movement, the value to 0, but it's better if we disable. We'll see this why later. Just I put 0 as a visual thing for me, and I disable. You can remove it as well, the line totally, but it's easier to when you want to duplicate the card, so you can just leave it and then enable, disable what you need. The armor, being a shield, you increase the armor by 2. But since you have a shield, of course you cannot maybe hold with 2 hands a big range weapon. Therefore, we're going to decrease the range of the weapon. Maybe rather than a rifle, you have a gun now. So rather than value 2 here, we're going to diminish 3. Sorry, we're going to diminish by 1. So remember, these they are not the actual values of the robots, but will be just the bonus or malus. So it can be only positive or negative. In case the armor here is meant to be +2, not 2, but it's no difference if I write plus. And the range will be -1, meaning it's going to reduce by 1 the actual range of the current robot as robot target. Same thing with the damage, will be small caliber, and therefore -1. And the melee damage will be the same, so we can just disable this. And here I have a description. I'm going just to copy from my test file and copy here. So basically add a shield to the unit. This is just a description. New line, +2 to armor, new line, -1 range, minimum 2, new line, and -1 range damage. Minimum 2, this we'll see later, because being range damage, as a usual, we say that minimum has to be 2 squares to be able to shoot, otherwise it's just a melee, and therefore that's why it doesn't matter what's the penalty, the minimum value has to be always 2. Now, to make it faster, I'm going to copy this one from my test file. Okay, no, wait a bit, wrong order. Okay, so now we have this conversion reinforcer armor, and I brought the name, still conversion card. Type of movement this time is -1, because basically it's a heavy armor, +1 to armor, but -1 to movement. All the rest is not going to be influenced by the armor. Description: add a thicker armor to the unit, +1 armor, -1 movement, minimum 1. Okay, that's great. Now, don't forget to, as usual, change this loop here from 5 to 7, because we had 2 cards and we need to create all other temporary cards until we finish to create all the robots and all the special cards. After we have all the cards, we can get rid of this testing card loop. So we can save now, and we go on event sheet info. Now we want to see visual feedback about what we have done. So where we have here this type equals to robot on line number 4, we're going to change the text here, and I'm going to add some lines. Basically, I just copy from my notes. Basically here at the end we paste a new line and new line info. Okay, this, sorry, because it was in Italian tutorial. Okay, so if you see here, basically I add the new line, and rather than get information from the card, because I didn't pass this information to the card, I just get the information from the array, because the array cards have all the information about the cards. And the X will be basically the card number, and the Y will be the info. And this is because I don't need to have an instance variable on the card to store the info, because those variables will be basically, it's a constant. They're not going never to change the information of the card. So it's a waste of space, waste of code to write. So I just got to the array and take the information directly from there. Done. I'm going to duplicate this line here. And rather than a robot, I change this type to conversion, because now this is going to act to the cards that make the conversion. Now I'm going to remove all the information included from movement to melee damage, because these information are not on the card. They are written in the info, so I don't need to repeat again the same stuff, and I delete in this way. So I need the card number, yes, I need the name of the card, the type of card, and the information, and that's it. So that's what we're going to display. Now we save, and let's test it. Let's see if we get lucky. We get, okay, so now this is a robot. As you can see, name, type, and here, or maybe I just, easier to compare with something here. Okay, we have another card here, that's good. So let's put on the field. Now we have a robot on this side, power up here. As you can see here, we have name, we don't know because we don't know. Okay, swap. Name bling, and this power up a shield, conversion, type is robot. No movement, blah blah blah. We adjust the info with information here and the info here. Now one thing I forgot to do is just to set this info also for the fake card, testing card, not fake card, but anyway, you get it. So I'm going to copy this line from here, and we put question mark. You can write what you like. You will not have this one when you have all the cards, so don't worry much about this, but it give me 0 because the array at that point is 0, it's empty, so that's why I get 0 as a result when it's try to retrieve the information. So now will be all done, all good, and we can go here on our event sheet board to keep going to do everything. So first of all, we go here on our line 20 where we say if the card is dragging, and just make it bigger. We have this chunk of events here with condition. We make a 2 sub event. The first one we bring this up above these 2 conditions, and we take these 2 conditions inside. Okay, because this one we filter for robot. So if the card is a robot, add a new condition, compare instance variable, card type equals to robot, then do all the same thing. Basically, what it's going to do here is going to differentiate between if the card is a type robot or if it's a conversion card. And this because I will show you 1 second. We'll go back to the program, to the game. When I go to drag this card at this moment, the power up, as you can see, it's still big and doesn't change size unless I go my starting point. Same thing with this one. We go put on the left side when it's the turn. See, just small only here. There is no selector. It's elsewhere. It's big only here. But since it's a power up card, I want to be able to use this power up card on any card, even the one of the enemy, because I might, as I said before, want to damage the enemy indirectly. Everywhere on the battlefield. So I need to make sure that first of all, visually this card reduces its size everywhere, not only in this starting point. And after I need to be able to make sure that it's working only when we put the card on top of another card and not on the battlefield or empty space on the starting points like this. So I don't want this to happen. This has to be played only on top of another card. So that's what we're going to do now. First of all, the size of the card. So that's why we say we are okay, change the size with this condition here if it's a robot. If it's not a robot, you need to do a different way. So first of all, we need to add a new condition for the conversion here. As we said here, we did the sub event. We make a sub event as well. And then the type conversion will be basically, we can copy some of this data here. Not everything, but we can copy some of this. And the first one is this, if it's an overlapping time map. Ctrl C and then Ctrl V. Then I go much more up where we have a on drag and drop, and then we check here if the array is empty, then we can put a card there. Basically, we copy this line here and we paste this here. Now, in this case, it's the opposite. We don't want to put the card on the battlefield if the slot, the cell in that area is empty. We actually want to make sure that the card can be played only if the square is occupied by one of the robots. Therefore, we need to make sure that it's not equals to -1, but different from -1. It means that something has to be there, so in order to play the card. And that's good for now. So these are the 2 conditions for the else. We can copy directly. We can copy the else directly as well, actually. So means if this is not true, then you resize hide big the card and hide the selector. Otherwise, what we're going to do, yes, we set the size, so we can select this. Yes, we set the position of the selector, so we copy these two only and we paste them here. We are not going to copy this set animation frame to 0. And then we're going to do add card, add action, and we say move on top of the layer. Move on top, because when we're going to drop this card or even overlap on, hovering on top of the cards, we want to see this card above everything else. Otherwise, we're going to lose it. Sometimes depends on where we can drag it. So we want to make sure it's always on top, and this will also influence the card when we're going to be actually dropped on top of another card. So we save this point here. Then we go back up a little bit, where actually we say on drag and drop, and we're going to change this as well in a similar way. Basically, from here we add if the card is drop is overlapping the tile map, we make 2 new sub events. The first 2 one here will be inside first block. It will be stay the same if the type is robot. For the second block, if the type is conversion, we copy again, will be of course different. So with this one we don't touch anything, because if it's robot we know already it's working, nothing to do. But we're going to change it only if it's a type conversion. So we can start copying these 2 blocks here as well inside, and then we go to modify. First of all, still we keep this slot, because yes, we need to reset the slot that was holding the card when we play the card to be able to accept another card. So we need to reset, we need to keep it in this way. This one here, as we said before, rather than equals to -1, has to be different to -1, because we need to make sure that there is a card, actually there is a robot, so we can play the card. We don't need this one, so I go to disable this, because the card can be any card of any player, so it's fine. So I disable this one. You can delete it, but as usual, for make it clear the code, I just leave it there. And I go to disable this line as well, because I don't want to put the value of the card on the array map, because otherwise if I have a robot like let's say blink, for example, if I blink on the battlefield and I play a card on top of blink, a power up card, basically if I leave this instruction, blink will be deleted from the array map and will be written the number of the card of the power up, like the shield. In this case will be a big mess. So we want to make sure that we get rid about this line here. Also we can get rid about this line here, because we don't need to disable the card, because we are going to destroy the card. Actually I can do straight away now. Card fade, start fade. If you remember, after the fade we destroy the card, so we can just put this effect before passing the turn. And before the fade we are going to call a new function, but we need to go to create the function first. I can just put a bookmark here, so I can find this point again in the future easily. Add an event, and then we create a new function on function. Now the function, you will call it easily as you want, but I call it conversion. And I'm going to add the 2 parameters. I just copy and paste to make it a little bit faster. Parameter 0 I'm going to pass will be the number of the card that is doing the conversion, so basically the power up card, like the shield, while the second number will be the target card, like for example the robot blink. So now we need to pass this information to conversion when we call it. So we go view, bookmark bar, this one here. Okay, so we go back here, and then we go basically to call the function passing the parameters. So function and function, the function is conversion. Of course, if you have construct tree, it's a little bit different. I already explained many times. I think you already know how to do this, so I don't need to repeat myself and don't want to waste too much of your time. And then the parameter we're going to pass here will be these ones. I just leave it here and then copy for make it easy for you. 1 and 2. First parameter, as we said, card number. Second one is just this big long string. Now I will read it for you because in case if it's a little bit small for you. Basically, I cannot compare in the same condition here two different cards, and because the construct as it works doesn't let me do it. I could do it if I use function and families, or there is other way to do it, but it's a little bit more complicated. So this is the easiest way. Basically, since here we filter the condition for the card that is dragging and dropping, I get this information from this one. This is the power up card. To know the target card, I just go to see, as we've done many times, basically array map at tile map position to tile X of the coordinate of the card X and the card Y. Basically, the card that is overlapping will be on top of one of the tiles of the tile map. Then we transform those coordinates of the card in coordinates of the tile map, and we use the same coordinates to get the position of the array map that is storing the information of the cards number that are present in the multiple map, and therefore I get the information on the second card that is the card the target card in this way. So this you can see it will be written bigger if you want to have a look. Okay, after all this information here, I'm going to pass this information as a parameters, as I said, to the function conversion. And now, first of all, I need to create a sub event. And the sub event is empty. I add the new local variable. I call it conversion, just to understand. And it's conversion card number. Okay, 0 it's fine because it's just a temporary value. And then a system set value of conversion to function dot parameter 0. Once again, this is for construct 2. Construct 3 don't need this one. Still inside the onConversion as a function, we make another sub event. And in this case, we say card, compare instance variable, card number equals to function dot parameter 1. Once again, construct 3, you will have the name of that you choose to use for this instance variable. That is the parameters at the same time. Now, from now on, I'm going to copy the information from my test project, because otherwise it takes too long for me to write. I don't want to waste too much your time, so you can just pause the video and copy the information as you go. So I'm going to explain first everything, and then we go through one by one. So as I said before, construct doesn't allow me to take in consideration two cards that are different, and therefore I have the problem that I need to identify the cards that give us the bonus and the cards that is the target. In this case, I don't want to care about the power up card, but I will act only on the target card because it's the one that needs to change its values on the instance variable. So first thing, with this one, we set as a local variable this number that is storing the number of the card that is the power up card, and therefore I'm referring to this conversion all via when we check array cards. So basically, every time I need to make a comparison, I go here and I check if the values of array cards at conversion. So because on the X we used to have a card 0, 0, 0 is the first robot, 0, 1, second robot, and so on, and then we have created 2 new cards, so 5 and 6. And the y will be related to the actual stat that I want to increase or decrease to the robot, and therefore these values here, movement, HP, armor, range, and so on, are these values here we are created here. So if they are 0, basically means we didn't put any values. If it's different from 0, we have a bonus or penalty. So let's say if we have a shield, in this case, doesn't give you anything to the movement, so it's 0. We skip this. Doesn't change the HP, but it changed the armor. So in this case, movement will be 0 for in the array. HP will be 0, so we skip this. We skip this, and then this one is say if it's different from 0, yes, it has a value, and the value here is 2. Basically, what we say, okay, this card has a value 2, and then set the instance variable armor of the card, that is the target, so basically it's the robot, to which value? Its actually value as armor plus the values at this coordinate that is in the array cards, that is conversion and armor, they give me the value of 2. So this, after many videos on the array, this should be quite clear. So basically, if the card has a 1 point of armor, I increase it by 2 points, and until here, no problem at all. Where we have the problem? We have the problem when we have a negative number, because we need to make sure that depending on the stat we are going to decrease, the game has to work perfectly. So if you have a power up or anyway penalty that is going to decrease the armor, it doesn't matter, because when we do the battle, if you remember, to hit and to make damage, the player add 1d6. Same thing to defend. So basically, even if the armor is -2, but the player rolls 1d6 and then gets 6 as a result, still the armor has a 4 point of value. So it's still okay to make calculation with negative number to see the difference between the damage and the armor. The same thing will be for range damage and melee damage, because in the same way, likewise, we add 1d6 to these values every time. So it doesn't really matter. We do a difference between the attacker and the defender all the time. But the problem is when we decide to change the value of the movement, or the hit point, or the range. So let's start with the movement. With the movement, I add this expression first. So this is the usual formula we saw before, just with the movement for the armor. In this case, movement, I remember that there is a current movement and movement max and movement left and movement max. Of course, we are going to influence only movement max, because movement left only when the player is actually moving the card. So it's not going to happen when you play a card. You can't do anything else when you play power up. So we want to make sure that this value here is always as a minimum of 1, because we can't have a card with a robot with movement 0 or -1 negative. So we need always to be able to move at least 1 square our robot. Even if this is actually might be something useful. For example, you have a card that gives you +1 armor, -1 movement. It doesn't matter if your movement is already 1. Actually, it's only advantage for you. But for the game mechanics, the movement has to be minimum 1. So let's say one example. The movement, this power up card gives you +2 movement. Then this formula here, this part here is 2, and then the value of the card as a movement now is 1. So 1 plus 1 plus 2, it gives 3. Okay, so we max. Basically, I get the higher value between a choice of 1 and 3. Now, if you could have also comma and other values, in this case only 2 values, in this expression always pick the highest value between the two, and that's fine. In this case, you have a bonus, your movement become higher, is higher than 1, you get it. But if you have instead the current value of the movement is 1 as a movement max of the card, and then actually it's not the bonus but it's a penalty of a -2, you cannot have -1. 1 minus 2 become -1, so this value here will be -1, and we cannot have -1 as a result. So this, sorry, will be -1, so we cannot have -1 as a result. Therefore the computer is going to pick the higher value between 1 and -1, and of course we pick 1, and therefore we force the computer to have as a result for the robot 1, doesn't matter what's the bonus. So this is so it's a minimum value has to be 1. Yes, the expression is called max even if we talk about minimum value, but if you think about it 1 second, it makes sense because the minimum has to be the highest value between these two. That's why max. If you put minimum here, it's going to mess up everything, so make sure to understand why we do this. So this was for movement, no problem at all. Now range, likewise a similar thing, but rather than 1 we put 2 as a minimum value because at 1 we do only melee attack, we can't do range attack, so the minimum value in this case has to be 2 for the range. Finally we have HP. Now HP, I change both HP max and HP left because of course you're going to if you have 3 HP as a max and 3 HP as a left, and you have a card that gives you -1 to HP, if you reduce the max to 2, even the left has to be 2, it can be 3. So likewise the formula works like we did for the movement in the same way, just change max and then we change at the same time HP left. Now you could have a situation where you wanted actually a card that give a minimum value. In this case always minimum value is 1, so it doesn't matter what's the penalty, it still has to be 1 hit point left for the card. But you could have a card in your game, because you decide to do it in this way, that the penalty actually could kill the target. In that case you need to have here other condition, then if HP left is 0 or less, blah blah blah, destroy the card and so on, update the array and all the rest. So I'm not doing it from this because I try to make the game a little bit simple, but you can do as you want, of course. So after all this checking that we have to do one by one, unfortunately, for each stats, we are going to call the function show info as we did already in the past. I just copied the code from elsewhere. So we pass the parameter card info, card.player number, and card.card number. And basically what is going to do this is just after we apply the card for the conversion to the robot, we want to display straight away the new values of the robot, so we can see the difference between before and after. Now we save this and let's go to test the game. Sorry, this video is longer than usual lately, but it has to be done if you want to know how to do these things here. And I take the chance to say thank you very much to everyone that supports me on Patreon, that helped me also to create some of these power-up cards, also the one you will see later. Now I'm going to create one of these cards. If you like the video, please click like, and of course share it amongst your friends or other people that think might be interested in this kind of topic. I'll be very grateful to you. Okay, so now I create a little bit this situation. I want to see if I get another power-up card, but It's not going to happen. It's okay. I will show you this one. So basically you have the shield here, +2 to armor, -1 to range, minimum 2, -1 to range damage. Now we have this target, can be, as I said before, I can play this card to see now. This card I forgot to show you before, becomes small only when it's on top of the target robot, not on the buildings, not on, it's where, only where I can actually play the card. So basically, if I play this card here to my robot here, the armor become 4, and then the range is gonna to change from 2 to -1, make 1, but still the minimum has to be 1, and therefore I will play to it to show you. And same thing for the damage, it will be reduced by 1, range damage, but in this case the minimum is okay to be negative. So remember that armor, range damage, 2, 2, 2, let's see, fading, then it's 4, 2, and 1. So we kept the minimum of the range 2, and then we use the card. So this is working fine. And in the next video we are going to see other cards, and the other cards we need to do separate mechanics for each card, so it'll be a little bit more complicated because it's just a case by case. So just to give you, I will just give you a little example to show you what you can go on. So you need to think well what is the difficulty for you to create some special card, because it's not just increasing or reducing the numbers here of the stats, that in this case it's easy to do, but depends what you want to create. It might be more or less complicated. And after this I think the video will be finished as this series for the card game. I promised you at the beginning that I was going to add a controller or joystick for this game here. Instead I will go to make a little series separately after this using Construct 3. By the way, if there are any difference from now on, because I will use the Construct 3 from now on, between Construct 3 and 2 I will still point you out the difference. And I make a separate series for the controller, just because I can make many little different example of different type of games, rather than apply only the controller to this one, only to this game. That will be more restrictive. And you can still of course use the same information that you retrieve from the next tutorial to use in this game. So I just don't want to make a too over long video series and complicated with things that you can easily do by yourself. Last thing, depends when you see the video. At the moment there is on my Patreon page a poll. It's open to everyone. You don't need to be my Patreon supporter, but you will need to register to the website if you're not yet on Patreon in order to vote. And basically this poll is to decide my next videos that I'm going to do related to Construct 3. So if you want to let me know which kind of video you prefer me to create, please go there and give your vote. And so this will be affecting anything that I will do after the game part video series. So just will be there for not many days, but if you have the chance, please vote, so you help me to decide what to do for you. Thank you again, and see you next time. Bye.